Do that now. All right. So one of the things we know from research and in all kinds of systems, from the most micro level to the most large multinational level, is that better connections in and outside the system create stronger, better resourced, and more adaptive systems that are able to address problems and achieve better outcomes for the system. The inverse is true. Isolated systems achieve less, have fewer resources and options, and create less innovation. So at all scales, this sort of fundamental is true, whether it's a small system or a large system. The more connections, the better the system does. We wanted to share, some of you heard this in some of our info sessions, but we wanted to share what we've learned from listening to people in Central Texas, listening to residents, listening to what they feel about their communities and their lack of involvement in what's happening. Most residents we spoke to in a series of 4 listening sessions a couple years ago in 4 communities in Central Texas, we asked them about how they want to engage and be involved in their community and whether they're involved in the ways they want to be involved. And what they told us is that they want to be partners and co-designers in solving the community's problems. They don't want to be passive recipients. They want to be co-creators. They want to be empowered to create their own solutions. In fact, direct quotes were, "We want to be an adaptable, agile, and innovative community, but we feel disconnected from our leaders and we don't know where to begin." Community members want organizations, and this is specific, I think, and helpful to you. Community residents are telling us that they want organizations of all types, government, business, foundations, nonprofits, to work more collaboratively and creatively and in connected and synergistic ways to create solutions that work in the local community. They told us there are lots of positive efforts underway, but the systems are siloed and we don't work well together. This is a direct quote. "We do good work apart from each other." So beneficiaries of the kinds of work that many of you do in your communities, beneficiaries are saying, we think there's lots of duplication, or there's entire lack, or there's challenges in accessing services and supports, or systems aren't talking well to each other. We find ourselves having to repeat the same thing over and over again in order to get this a service or support. They want to be part of the solution. They want to be partners with you, and they want to be able to co-design solutions that work for them and the community. So this issue of siloed systems is an important one that we're trying to break down. So the real challenge as we see it, and what our colleagues that are working in Central Texas right now are telling us, is that there are a number of challenges to this that network weaving we think can help with. Number one, there's not enough available resources to address most of the pressing problems in our communities. We know as nonprofit leaders ourselves that a scarcity mentality continues to exist in the nonprofit sector, where many organizations see their peers and other organizations as competition for scarce dollars. Programs are only benefiting a fraction of the population that needs support. There's no way we can program our way out of the problems we've got in community. It can't be done. There's not enough money. There's not enough scale. There's not enough resources to program our way out of the problems that we've got in community. Funders who only fund certain organizations, it's like once you're in good. But if you're not in, it's really hard to get in. There's a real difficulty in getting in relationship with funders. Organizations continue to operate. I think they're better today than they were 10 years ago, but they continue to operate in silos. They don't bring a systems perspective with them to much of the work that they do. And systems and initiatives aren't connected and coordinated with each other. And in some cases, there's unhealthy systems that are not working well for people. And I think in a lot of cases, our systems just don't have the adaptability that they need in order to be able to respond to both the changing environment and the changing needs in our communities. So this issue of unhealthy systems and lacking adaptability is part of what we want to think about with you and begin to address. Jenny, do you want to talk about this?
Sure, I'd love to. Does anybody know what this is? Just take a wild guess. What is it?
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge. It actually says there, guys. I wanted to see if y'all are awake. Hey, this is a bridge in Honduras. And it is an engineering feat. It was built around 1998, and it was an amazing structure. Around that same time in 1998, Hurricane Mitch came through and caused massive damage, infrastructure damage. All the roads connected to the bridge washed away, and just devastated the land and buildings and the infrastructure in Honduras. But the bridge stayed. Check that out. The bridge survived. But what happened?
The course of the river changed.
The river changed, right? The river carved out a new channel, and this bridge was then called the Bridge to Nowhere. It no longer served its purpose that it once did. And so, change is like a river, right? It flows, it goes, and then your solutions and what you do, you think are established or can be like a program, right? But if you cling on to that, sometimes they can no longer serve their purpose. So I want y'all to kind of think about that as we go through this process. What do y'all think? What does that bring to mind? You can put it in the chat or percolate on that a little bit.
Well, here's another quote that I think, Jenny, you might want to share out, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, this is what I think about when I think about network weaving as well. When people think the same idea and move in the same direction, that's a cult. When people think many different ideas and move in one direction, that's a movement. And that's what network weaving is about, right? We don't want a homogeneous group. We want different people and different ideas and different perspectives from different places. Multi-sector, people with lived experience, people who've been there. Otherwise, you're going to get the same ideas. You're going to get the same solution and do the same thing. And you're going to be the same bridge while everything moves around you. So that's why networks are seen as more mobile and able to handle these more complex challenges that we have in communities.
Thanks, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our first opportunity to go into other groups, another group. We want you to begin thinking about sort of in your experience, what are ways that you have in the past worked or had to work that you've found counterproductive or unhealthy? And what are healthy ways of being and doing work together from your vantage point? Instead of us telling you what an unhealthy or healthy approach to the work you do is, it'd be great if you could share some of the things that you found that are really not helpful and counterproductive or actually unhealthy in work experiences, community experiences, movement experiences that you've had in the past. And then what you might suggest are healthy ways of being and doing work together. It can be pretty much anything, but it should be based on what you've seen and experienced. So, Jenny, anything to add on that? We're going to go, I think, into 4 groups of 3. So you'll be with 3 people this time. And we'll have about 10 minutes to consider these 2 questions. Anything to add, Jenny, before I do breakouts?
No, I think it's important to note we didn't bring up one of these values, but like as we talk in this session and as you share in your group, it's and as we leave here, you take the lessons with you, but you don't take the details with you. So what you share in your group, the details stay, but what lessons that you learn from that sharing, you take.
Right. Good point. Okay. We will be in groups for about 10 minutes. I will send you there now, give you a heads up in about 9 minutes. Be sure and try to tackle both of these questions. Carlton. Carlton. He might be frozen. It says he's not joined. Are you there, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I think Carlton is frozen.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh no, he got moved into room 2.
There we
Okay.
go.
All right. Okay. So we're at like about 12 or 11 people right now. That means we have quite a few that actually didn't join today. We're going to definitely want to follow up with them.
10. Did you freeze?
No, I don't know what happened.
Oh,
Okay.
I see you. I've got you in room.
2.
Actually, I'm showing you in room 4 right now. Let me move you into room 2 and see what happens. Did you get an invite to go to room 2?
Yeah, I did that and I was there and then I wasn't.
Okay, did you just now get something
Oh.
from me? No? Oh, Carlton's frozen again. Poor guy. This stinks. I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
I hate that. Huh. Okay.
Okay, so I think we anticipated some of these.
Yeah, we knew of at least 5 that I was aware of.
Monique.
Yeah.
Sonia said she joined late.
That's true. She
Sarah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're almost an hour in now. So I don't know what late means.
Yeah.
So I didn't pay attention to the clock. Do you think they've been in there about 5 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, if they don't get in depth, then this is a way to Tuesday it,
Yep.
later.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So if they've been in, let's say 5 minutes, I'm going to bring them back in 5 minutes.
okay.
So I'm going to broadcast the message.
Here we go.
Carlton, you're
Again?
back.
I was there, and then I just automatically switched me back to anyway. So,
I'm so sorry. I have no idea what's going on.
likewise.
So you're in there and then it just disconnects you?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Okay, well, you can stay here with us.
Okay.
Unless you want to try again, I can try sending you somewhere else.
It doesn't, whatever, it matters not.
Let's see. Let's try you in room 3 with Chris.
All right, here.
Good luck. See, he's frozen again.
It freezes them like right there.
Yeah. That's weird.
They might need to disconnect and reconnect. I don't know. I don't know why that would.
Yeah. So right now we are 20 minutes behind,
Okay.
just so you know.
Okay.
I do want to be able to get far enough along that we can have the next breakout,
Okay.
which I need to look at.
Nope. We're coming back.
Oh,
We didn't know whether we're supposed to stay or go.
you should, whenever you've got a chance to know people better, take advantage of it, is the way I feel.
Okay.
It's up to you, but we've got about, I guess we were bringing people back in 3 minutes. So
Okay.
it's your call.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick break real quick.
Okay, good enough. Yeah, I think we'll get to it, Jenny. I think we'll be able to get to the next breakout.
Okay.
It may be coming out of that breakout that we wrap up.
No problem.
And then the next session, we'll do the latter half of the agenda.
Yeah, we can use one of the first half of a coaching or first half of a something too.
Or we could break it up across all 3 of those. The other 3
Mhm.
sessions. We could do 10 minutes in each one
Yep.
and we'll cover it.
Yep.
That might be a way to do it.
Hmm.
Kind of like that idea.
Okay.
Where are we?
I say bring them back.
You do?
Yep. Is it too early?
Well, I think it's okay. It's 2 minutes. This gives them a minute of warning.
Hmm.
Four, three, two, one. Welcome back, everybody. Did you have interesting conversation?
Yep.
Who wants to share anything that they heard that they think might be, I don't know, might be helpful for the rest? I see your hand raised, Elizabeth. Good job.
Thanks. So Cheryl and I know Cheryl's gonna go to her call, but we had a
Yeah.
really great conversation about some of the counterproductive and unhealthy things we were doing are, rigidly sticking to plans, not being adaptive, listening to negative voices, bringing up problems without solutions. And we talked a lot about how micromanaging kills creativity and innovation.
Yep.
Which I think we can all agree with. And some healthy ways of being and doing work we thought were having an open dialogue with your team, offering solutions, not problems, providing the tools and goals, and accept there's different ways from getting from A to B, and setting healthy boundaries. Kind of going back to micromanaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
It was nothing personal that made me leave. So it's great, by the way.
See Jake and Chris have their hand up.
Yeah. Chris, do you want to share? We'll get to Jake.
I'll go for it. And then it basically our group, first part, we were talking about how, being coming on the scene, and you might be a new agency or you've been around for a while, and people having a perception of what you do or what you don't do in the community, and then also maybe communities having siloed or their own kind of like ones that they always work with, and then they don't really understand, and they kind of pigeonhole you to a certain way of doing, and then they figure out, oh wait, no, you do this and you do something really great, but I was pigeonholing you, where I was putting you in this box over here whenever you had a lot of great things to offer our agency, and we could network together and what so on and so forth. And then it was brought up at the end too, how sometimes there can be within structures lack of planning, and then sometimes then trying to do things at the seat of your pants, or sometimes something's being controlling and could have been managed better or executed better if there would have been more proper planning or discussion that was done. But
Sure.
so opening up these communication lines seemed to be the theme, like how you broaden your communication and your networking.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Jake?
So when Linda and I talked, we I think we kind of came up with a little bit of a theme for question number one. Counterproductive and unhealthy. Number one is like not having a plan, not knowing why you're there and what you're doing. And the second, not having input, because I think everything that we're working on here, everything everyone does here is something that involves the community or stakeholders of some sort. But then we talked about how the pendulum can swing the other way, where you can have too many folks involved, too many leaders, too many cooks in the kitchen, which sort of rolled us into question two, healthy ways of being and doing work together. Going back to not having a plan, to be healthy in this scenario is to be very forthright about your intentions, about your reasons, about your goals, and then once again going back to having too many cooks in the kitchen, small groups, kind of like these breakout rooms, always easier to share ideas and get that information. It's too easy to get lost
Right.
in a crowd when there's lots of folks talking. I personally always hate those things when there's 40, 50 people in the room and they're asking for ideas.
Yep.
So yeah, we kind of had, the negative versus the positive were kind of the same thing for both of our questions. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Jake. All right, let's, and others that didn't get a chance to share, we really want to know what you think. So put them in the chat box when you get a chance. That's always a place where you can park ideas whenever you need to, or share ideas. So what we're going to do for the remainder of our time together today is really talk about network basics. And I think that some of the things that you've all raised in sort of thinking about healthy and unhealthy ways of working, we'll come to address those in a network context, because I think networks, the way we will see and talk about them will challenge some of the things that we think are healthy and unhealthy. So one of the first things we want to do is just sort of get some language out of the way, make sure that we're all on the same page. We will be sharing network maps, and we will be using maps regularly to demonstrate or illustrate. In fact, you'll see some today. But understanding what you're looking at when you look at a network map is important. So you will see in maps either squares or circles, and those are people generally, and we call those nodes. You also see lines, and I'm going to show you one in just a second here. Lines are links, or the potential of a relationship between two or more nodes. A connected pair are two or more people that have a relationship. An isolate is a person that has no relationship with anybody in the map. A directional link indicates that there is a one-way connection. In other words, I know this person, or I've met this person, or I've worked with this person. You would expect that it be reciprocal, but it isn't always. You'll see a one-way directional link. When you see an arrow, a line with two arrow ends on it, that's a non-directional link, and it means it's going both ways. Triangles are the beginnings of relationships. And so in an open triangle, you see three people. They all know one or more people in the group. And that's an open triangle. A closed triangle is where all three people are connected. Network weavers try to close triangles. So here is an actual network map. It's a little fuzzy. It's a little hard to see, but this is an actual network map. Dots are people, and lines are the relationships they have. So then the question becomes, what is a network? Well, in its simplest term, networks are sets of relationships and the patterns created. How those patterns emerge influence the quality of the communication within the network and the likelihood that there will be collaboration and innovation in a community. So networks are patterns of relationships. Some of the key elements that you will hear us regularly talk about are these. The core of a network, which is where most of the activity in a network happens. It's people that have lots of relationship with other people, lots of connections. It's where most of the action happens. The periphery is an important part of a network. It's where new ideas, new relationships, new resources are fed into the network. Having a robust periphery is an important element of a network because that's where new ideas, new expertise, new talent comes from. You will hear the word hub. And you can see the example in here, this red dot. This is a person that has lots and lots of relationships in community. Lots of relationships. The research tells us that you can't, as a person, it's hard to manage that many relationships. Anything more than about 40 is hard to manage and the hub breaks down. So we want to make sure that when we see hubs in a network, which is where there's a lot of connectivity to others, that hub begins thinking about how do I offload some of those relationships and create new hubs or new people with relationship. There's clusters, which is where you see clusters of people that either have the same idea or they're working on the same problem or they're coming from the same geography, whatever it might be. So there are clusters of people. A hub is a person. A link is a relationship, and a node is a person. So those are the key elements of a network. To create a network that looks like this, you add more people, you connect those not currently connected, and you use a lot of trust and understanding to build out that network. Network types. These are just some types of networks. You may not even think about them as networks, but in fact, they are. And they range, all networks will range in certain degrees of centralization and formality. So a highly centralized formal network are like networks that are embedded within and between departments in an organization. That's actually a network. And in fact, there's a growing body of literature around sort of the hidden network in organizations. The hidden network is that network that everybody implicitly knows how to use to get things done, but it's not reflected in any org chart. It's like, yeah, if I need to get something done, I know I need to go to these 3 people to get it done. That hidden network, every organization has some degree of networks within it. Membership organizations are another type of network. Arguably, it's a lot of generally a one-way flow of information, and it's not a lot of interconnectivity across individuals or organizations. Multi-hub networks, these are called affiliate models. This is where you've got like the ACLU. It might be a great example of a multi-hub network where you've got affiliates all over the United States, and they each have their own networks. But it all comes back to a central hub or a central hub organization. Social impact networks, which is where we will spend most of our time in the learning series, also called smart networks. We will talk more about that today and over the next several weeks. But that is where collaboration, that's where innovation, that's where true potential change happens, are in these social impact networks. And we'll look at them in just a second. And then finally, the most decentralized and informal kind of network is a network of networks, where you literally have dozens of networks that are interconnected. It's actually there where the greatest amount of innovation happens, is within networks of networks. There's more resources, more connectivity, and more action in those.
Well, I think Joy had a clarifying question.
Question?
She wanted to
Sure.
know about. Go ahead, Joy.
Yeah. Joy?
Yeah. So when you said that more than 40 relationships is too many, is that meaning like that the hub is a person or an organization or both?
Most of the time when we talk about hubs, we're talking about individuals. However, there are many times that an organization is a hub. But when we've looked at the literature and we've looked inside those hubs, what we find is it's not the organization so much that's the hub, it's one or more persons within the organization that's the hub. And I think about like an organization that we work very closely with, Bastrop County Cares. That is a hub organization. But when you look inside it, it's the CEO that's really the hub. She's carrying all those resources or all those relationships. So we can call BCC a hub, but really it's Debbie Brissett that's the hub, right? So yeah, and it's hard to hold more than 40 relationships and make them productive and helpful and useful and beneficial for both parties. It's too many relationships to manage. Once it gets that large, some people are feeling neglected. It's like, I can't give that kind of attention to everybody. And so that's when often you'll see a hub split and another individual will step in and begin managing some of those relationships. Good question. Thank you, Joy. That was
So a follow-up question about
Yeah.
that. So I mean, I guess that's maybe an indicator that you don't want one person in your organization holding all the relationships, right? Because if that person decides to move to, Tahiti next
Yep.
week.
Yep. That's a great point. That is a fabulous point. If your organization is serving as a hub, it's going to be important to diversify those relationships throughout the hub, throughout the organization, to the extent that you can. Because anything more than that, and it becomes problematic. And you're right. I mean, you've essentially put all your eggs in that one person's basket. And if that person takes off, then what's the nature of those relationships anymore? Right? If they've moved to Corpus Christi, what are we going to do now? It's like all those links between relationships are severed, or they've moved to Corpus Christi. It's like the relationship isn't in the hub anymore. It's with the person in Corpus Christi, not in Bastrop County Cares. Oh, those are great questions. Thanks for asking those, Joy. And again, anybody that wants to raise their hand and ask, feel free. So it's important to understand that networks, all of these relationships, all of these people interconnected, don't emerge fully formed. What happens is they evolve over time. And most network building begins when you've got scattered clusters of people, few connections, but no interconnectivity across all those few connections. That evolves into a hub and spoke design. And in many cases, that's where we encounter most networks, is that you have a strong hub, person or organization, and lots of relationships stemming from that hub. We try to move organizations and communities to multi-hub as the next stage, where you now have multiple hubs throughout a region with multiple networks. And ultimately, where we're trying to get to is a smart network, which is June Hawley's term for a social impact network, where All of those multi-hubs are now part of the core. And you've got this amazing, strong, resourced periphery. That's how network evolution typically happens. And it can take years, or it can take months. It just depends. Sonia, you had a question?
You may have already spoke about this, but as my brain is moving as you're talking about all the different groups or different networks. And so from my understanding, through these networks, or especially through the smart network and the multi-hub networks, would those networks have basically in the similarities and visions and missions, and then taking those same resources and putting them out to the various networks? And let me just ask for a specific question to help me. Like, for instance, if there was a group specifically around mental health awareness, and there would be some commonalities with these different networks. Therefore, if the foundation piece of the mental health, these groups would have that type of information in order to help the overall network? Or is that kind of going different direction?
Well, I think that, there's some presumptions here that I think need to be clear. I mean, networks are generally something that emerges from people's, a network really begins with a person and a group of people. And their purpose can be different. It's like, we'll talk in just a second about the different types of social impact networks. Some are all about just creating connection. That's all they're about. They just want to create connection. Others are about alignment, where you're creating connection and then aligning around a shared vision or goals. And then a third type that we'll look at is called a production network, which is really all about what are we going to produce together. So let's take mental health. There can be multiple networks out there around mental health, but they may all be focused on different aspects of mental health. Where the real challenge and where the real potential is when you create a multi-hub or a smart network where you brought all those different networks under the same sort of goal or vision. And that goal or vision might be, we want to increase access to mental health services for everyone in our community. We need to make it accessible. So, one network might be focused entirely on, how do we recruit more providers into our community? Another network might be all about advocacy and how we strengthen advocacy. Another might be focused on stigma and language and promotion and awareness building. So all these different networks are all about access to mental health services. And so the question then becomes, how do we bring them all together? How do we connect all those efforts in a way that creates this robust, strong network, all focused on access to mental health services? A smart network is where that happens. A multi-hub is where it could happen, but we haven't done a good job yet of sort of connecting it all up. So good question. So I mentioned this idea of, types of social impact networks. You will find in your readings in Plastrick's book, an entire section on, in fact, the whole book's on social impact networks, but there's a particular section up front on generative social impact networks. I want you to become familiar with these, and we will refer to them regularly. This is important conceptual knowledge here. June Hawley, the other book's author, calls networks that strive to bring about system shifting change smart networks. Plastrick and his colleagues call them generative social impact networks. In the end, it's largely all about language. And you will read both these authors and the language will be different. But if you can get beyond the language, you'll see where there's similarity in their thinking. Plastrick refers to June Hawley all the time. And June Hawley was my mentor. So I'm trying to bring both to the table here for you. Plastrick's definition of generative social impact networks is a set of people who voluntarily organize themselves for collective action to solve a large, complex social problem. That's what a social impact network is. And those people that have collectively come together are either acting as individuals or they're acting as representatives of an organization. It could be either. It doesn't matter. So the three types are a connectivity network, which exists to link people to allow them to exchange information easily and often to learn as a result of the interchange of information. This network, a connectivity network, doesn't do anything more than that. That's what they're about, connecting and sharing information. Can you think of a network that the only reason they exist is to connect and share information? Thoughts?
Maybe
All-
like the 211 Aunt Bertha platform.
Yeah, that's a service,
Oh, okay.
right? And so in some ways it's beyond just connecting. I mean, when I say their entire purpose is to connect and share information with each other,
Oh, okay.
not beyond themselves. They've all come together. They're there to learn and to share, but there's no presumption that you're going to act in concert. All you've done is come together to learn and share information. And then whatever you benefit from that, you take that outside of the network and maybe use it in your either personal life or your social network or in your professional network. But there's no call to action and there's no presumption that the network is to do anything other than learn together. There are many learning communities like this. Yeah, I'll let you mull that over. The second one is alignment. An alignment network links people to help them to create and share ideas, goals, and strategies, and exchange information and coordinate with each other as a group. Members align around a goal and then coordinate or revise their activities to achieve the goal. So this is a group, much like Sonia and I were just talking about around mental health. If you can bring all those different mental health networks together and begin aligning with each other and then revising what you do based on what you've just learned from your colleagues, then that alignment leads to some great opportunities to eliminate duplicity in the community. And it allows us to lift up and promote certain pieces of the network because we're not as confused anymore. We can actually see how the network is fitting together to achieve access to mental health care, right? So that's an example of an alignment network. A production network it exists to foster collective action. So a production network is actually moving to action and producing something. So it might be producing new services. It might be producing new sets of supports. It might be producing new practices. It might be producing public policy proposals or other outputs for social impact. So it's contributing production to the community. Now, for a network to get to a production level, it must first be connected and aligned. So production means you become a connected network and an aligned network. So each of these accomplish different things. I think it's important to remember that. And when we think about your networks, what kind of network are you striving to be? Is your network about learning and sharing information? And that's all there is? And that's fine if that's all there is. That's important. Is your network about aligning services, supports, organizations, and other networks so that you can all be acting more in concert? That's important, and that's an alignment network. Alignment doesn't happen without connectivity, and production doesn't happen without alignment and connectivity. Okay. Plastric talks a lot about these. I encourage you to read that in the book. So we are about 15 minutes away from ending, and I'm going to skip forward. All of these slides will be with you, and we want to take the last 10 minutes to talk about the kind of networks that you're a part of right now, what you have done in your networks that's worked well and what hasn't worked well, and a little bit about the, choose a network. If you're in multiple networks, just choose one. Share with your colleagues how the network started, what's it's accomplished, what networks you're part of, and if you have time, what's worked and what hasn't worked in those networks. So we'll send you into, again, breakout. Jenny, anything you want to add?
No, I think as you dive into how did your network start and what has it accomplished, I think it will get those juices running about, is it stagnant? What was its purpose? What is it now? So that can really help you as well. So think through that.
Good
and
idea.
I'll put the questions in the chat. So when y'all break out, you know what they are.
Thank you so much. All right. 10 minutes. We'll be back. Cheryl had to, I think, go to another meeting.
Yeah, I think she stepped out.
Okay. All right. 15 minutes. We'll bring them back in 10. And then you have 5 minutes to do your wrap up.
Okay. What are the wrap up slides? Which ones do you want me to do?
It's the last slide, I think. Yeah, let's do last slide. It's well, there's 2 slides: next gatherings and wrap up.
Okay.
I'm gonna take us there right now. Okay, there's.
Okay.
And then the next slide is next gatherings. Can you do those 2 things?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to mark what we've gotten to here.
Do you want me to put the evaluation
Yes.
link in the chat?
Or I can do it if you want me to.
Okay. Yeah. Do that at the end.
Yeah.
That way, hopefully they can just do that.
Okay.
Ooh.
2:40 is when I'm going to bring them back.
Okay. Well, I'm glad they are talking. So asking questions.
Yeah. Actually, Joy asked really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That was awesome. that's part of our job, is to notice who seems to be resonating with this, asking really good questions about it, because those may be the next Jenny Burkholz.
Hmm.
Seriously.
I think we got some good potentials.
Yeah.
I feel good about this group. I really do.
Oh, I think they're going to be fabulous. Fabulous.
So Sonia did join.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I don't
stepped
think
right
anybody
in
else.
right
Yeah,
away.
she did.
That was
Mhm.
awesome. I love that.
I love her. Yes.
That was so good.
Okay. So Kaylee, Arthur, Sarah, Emily, and Beth.
That's who wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, and Monique, sorry.
So that's 6.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hear from Kaylee, and I didn't hear from Beth, and I didn't hear from Arthur.
Beth, I thought did.
Oh,
I think Beth
Yeah.
did. Yeah, Beth did.
okay.
And Arthur, yeah, I don't think I heard from Arthur.
That he would miss.
Yeah, I will go back just to be sure after we get off, and I'll look to see if I've missed any emails, but I think that's right.
Did we set our times for Wednesdays, or were we gonna get a vote from the group?
Well, we can do that if we, how do you want to handle the vote? Do you want to have them? How do you want to do it?
I think we just need to know if,
What do we have in the rhythm? What's in the rhythm?
well, we just set a day in the rhythm. We didn't set a time.
Oh, okay.
So we were gonna leave that up to them. I don't know if we want to say, did noon work out for you? Would you rather have an evening or a morning?
It's almost like morning versus afternoon. That's almost as best we can do, because everybody's going to have. I just don't think you get to any kind of a consensus other than morning or afternoon, and you may not get there on morning and afternoon.
So no lunchtime sessions?
I mean, it could be. I mean, you could say morning over the lunch hour, or afternoon before, I don't know, before 4 or something, or before 3. I mean, people got kids coming home from school, or
Yeah.
potentially have kids in the home still. So I don't think we can go later than 3.
8 is hard in the morning
Right.
because you're coming in and getting settled.
It's almost like 10 to 2. It's like 10 to 2 is probably when we can do it, or we go evenings, and that could be hard on people too.
Yeah.
But I just don't know where you want to have that conversation. You don't want to take it. You don't probably want to take the time to do that now. So do we email them? We tee it up now. We say this question about when we're going to be meeting for our sessions. That, we're going to send you an email, ask you to vote, or we're going to send you a text and ask you to vote. I think the other thing we have to have, and I don't know if you want to say this somewhere, but we've got to make sure that we've got all their contact information. I mean, there's a bunch of people we don't have phone numbers for.
Oh, yeah.
In
Okay.
the roster, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
We may only have phone numbers for 4 or 5 people.
Is there a place in Rhizome for that? Does it ask for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we just need to make that mandatory.
I'm I'm closing the rooms in 60 seconds.
Okay.
People are going to be coming back over the next couple minutes or next 60 seconds. And when you're ready for me to post the evaluation form link, just say, Bill, can you post the link? Unless you want it in there now. Do you want it in there now?
Nah.
Okay. You just tell me when to post. Before you, let me just say something before you.
You go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
you have time.
I
You have
just
time.
want to say, we haven't gotten through everything. If this really, the rest of this content's going to emerge over the next several sessions. This is our first introduction. Welcome back, everybody. Good conversations. Probably not enough time, I'm guessing. Well, I'm glad to hear that. We are within 5 minutes of wrapping up our first session. I wanted you to know that, as I had mentioned, slides and everything will be available. What you'll notice when you look at the slide deck is there's a bunch more content that we haven't gotten to yet. And over the next sandbox and peer coaching sessions, over this next month and a half, we will cover the remainder of that content. So we're thinking about all of this in sort of blocks or modules, if you will. And we have a sandbox session coming up in 2 weeks that's informal, which will talk a little bit more about some of this content that we shared or didn't get to share today. And then we'll have a peer coaching session, which is really exciting. I hope you can be at that. That'll be 2 weeks later. And then we'll follow that up with another informal coffee time 2 weeks after that. So we're on sort of a 2-week rhythm in which we'll be joining each other. In the meantime, there's opportunities to read and learn more and to take some surveys, and Jenny's going to share with you sort of what the homework is or assignments.
Yeah.
Jenny?
Yeah, sure. And I know you may be furiously writing notes right now, but don't fret. I will send this out in the email with the links. But this is what we'd like you to approach. As sent out earlier, we have the Rhizome. So if you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and set up your profile on Rhizome. Take a peruse on there and look around, put your picture up, fill out all your information, because we will be using that for your ongoing assignments. That's where everything will be posted. And then next are your readings. So if you didn't get a chance to read for this session, then go ahead and go back and read. If you didn't get your books yet, Carl and Carol, and we'll get those to you, then take the time to read those once you get those. There's also some other handouts that we'll send you for extra reading as well. What we're going to ask you to do between now and let's see, that'll be 2, 4, 6 weeks from now, is to have a twosie, is what we call it. So find one other person in this group and set up a meeting with them and get to know them a little bit more. So how you'll do that is you'll go into Rhizome and find their contact information in there. We'll go over this more in 2 weeks, how you can navigate Rhizome and find someone else. So that will be a twosie that we will do together. That will be the assignment. Next will be 2 surveys that you'll fill out. One will be a Network Weaver checklist, and another will be a Network Values checklist. And those will be linked surveys that we'll send out to you as well. Based off of those surveys and the results, we'll go through those together and see where you fall and where we want to work and coach through together. And then finally, the last thing, and Bill will put this in the chat for us right now, this is the evaluation form for today's session. And also within this form, it gives us guidance on what we can do better, what you liked, and also what gifts do you have to offer. I'd like for you to think about this because we have several opportunities coming up with these informal gatherings. So as we, go into some nicer seasons, maybe you would like to offer a field trip out to your place, your farm or whatever, so that we can see your nonprofit in action. Or maybe you have a skill that you would like to share with us, something neat or an opportunity to volunteer. So feel free to share that with us and share it on the form. So again, we'll send all of this out to you, but I wanted to give you a heads up on those upcoming assignments. And
So
go
Jenny,
ahead.
Jenny, where will they be able to find the PDF of the slide deck with speakers notes?
Yes, those will be in Rhizome. So in order to we will have a section in Rhizome for the organizational leaders. And in there you will find documents with this PowerPoint and other documents that you will read. Our first sandbox session will have Rita from that will help answer any questions that you may have about Rhizome as well at that time. So know that she will be there to assist if you get stuck.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, trying to be respectful of everybody's time, I want to thank you all so much for attending this first session. We still have lots of information to cover in the learning series. Great questions today, great engagement. So appreciate the time you've spent here. We hope it's helpful. Please be sure and fill out the evaluation form. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. We'll be sending you information on connecting for the informal coffee chat sandbox with Rita on Rhizome. So have a great day. And thank you all again so much for being a part of this learning series. Take care.